today all at once when I was thinking of maybe not doing these every night, maybe doing them every other night or once a week, I don't know. I received some beautiful notes of gratitude, and so I thought I'd continue. It's a pleasure for me and a joy, and I count it as a grave responsibility, since there are some that are watching, and since we're in this predicament of being in our homes with a little bit of extra time on our hands. I don't want to overdo it, but I received one special note. This person, I appreciate the sensitivity. I'm not. This person wants to convert to the church, and they wrote me in Greek. I presume they did that with Google Translate or something. It was very touching that she has enjoyed hearing the videos, that I might continue because she's learning so much. Today again I had the great joy and actually a spiritual exercise of continuing to do some pruning in the gardens of our trees and so forth. And it's so invigorating, and it reminds me of how God sometimes prunes us. He takes away the things that are not necessary. We cut away certain branches of a tree and of a rose bush that may be dying or not necessary. If you're calling, we're not doing calling on this show. I hear the telephone. Maybe we'll get to that. With the trials that we endure in life, that we must, it's the fathers talk about that. It's a way that God is pruning us, taking away that which is superfluous and keeping only that which is necessary. Our virtue, our goodness, our love, our humility. Like the thorns on the rose bush today that pricked me a little bit as I was working, sometimes with gloves, sometimes without gloves. They made me more alert. But yet from the rose bush, even though there are thorns, comes the most beautiful flower. Εάν τες γλώσσες των ανθρώπων λαλώ και των αγγέλων αγάπη δε μη έχω, γέγονα χαλκός ηχών ή κύβαλον αλλαλάζων. If I speak in the tongues of men and even of angels, but have not love, I am a noisy gong or a clanging cymbal. And if I have prophetic powers and understand all mysteries and all knowledge, and if I have all faith so as to remove mountains, but have not love, I am nothing. If I give away all that I have, and if I deliver my body even to be burned, but have not love, I gain nothing. Η αγάπη μακροθυμεί, χριστεύεται, η αγάπη ου ζηλεί, η αγάπη ου περπερεύεται, ου φυσιούται, ουκ ασχημονεί, ου ζητεί τα εαυτής, ου παραξύνεται, ου λογίζεται των κακών, ου χαίρει επί την αδικία, συγχαίρει δε τη αλήθεια. Πάντα στέγει, πάντα πιστεύει, πάντα ελπίζει, πάντα υπομένει. Love is patient and kind. Love is not jealous nor boastful. It is not arrogant or rude. Love does not insist on its own way. It is not irritable or resentful. It does not rejoice at wrong, but rejoices in the right. Love bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. Η αγάπη ουδέποτε πίπτει. Love never ends. As for prophecies, they will pass away. As for tongues, they will cease. As for knowledge, it will pass away. For our knowledge is imperfect, and our prophecy is imperfect. But when the perfect comes, the imperfect will pass away. When I was a child, I spoke like a child, I thought like a child, I reasoned like a child. When I am become a man, I gave up childish ways. For now we see in a mirror dimly, but then face to face. Now I know in parts, then I shall understand fully, even as I have been fully understood. So faith, hope, and love abide, these three. But the greatest of these is love. Νημή δεμένη πίστης, ελπίς, αγάπη, τα τρία ταύτα. Μείζον δε τούτον η αγάπη. Love is a science. It's a never-ending science. It's more difficult than algebra and calculus and biology and all the sciences. But love is not only something that we do. Sometimes it's something we have to receive or accept from others. I'll tell you an example, a very beautiful example that happened to me. When I was working with my Gheronda on the island, the beautiful island country of New Zealand, and the Fiji Islands and the Samoan Islands, on New Zealand, I remember a family wanted to take me out for a day, a family I had grown close to, Floratos. God bless them. I wonder if any of the New Zealanders hear this. The family in their van wanted to take me out for a day, and we went to the wine country of New Zealand, outside of Wellington. And there we were. We went and tasted wines at a couple of wine vineyards there. And then we stopped to have a coffee or something in a small village. And as we were there having our coffee, the proprietor of the coffee shop came with great joy to greet us. Oh, you're a Greek priest. He said, 1 minute, I have something very beautiful to show you. And as we were having our coffee, he went back in the back room and he came out with a magazine that had 10 pages about him, because he was the artist that the church chose there in New Zealand, which is far away from everywhere, to paint the icons of a church there of St. Nectarios. He'd never painted icons, he wasn't an iconographer, but he was so far away and he couldn't afford to order icons from Greece. They gave little icon cards that we have, all of us have in our pockets and our wallets, of this and that saint. And they asked him, can you paint this, can you paint that? And he filled a whole beautiful church, St. Nectarios Church, of icons. He says, you must go and see it, it's not far from here. And I was very excited for this. And he said, you go on ahead, I'll tell you how to get there, and I'll call the fellow who watches over it and keeps the key, and he'll open for you. We were grateful. So we drove, it was about a 20-minute drive from there, and there was the man waiting for us there, a very kind gentleman, 70, 75 years old. Very kind. Welcome, he said. He's not Greek Orthodox. He's just a friend of the fellow, neither is the fellow who painted them Greek Orthodox, but very kind people that were taking in care of our church and helping us. So he opened the church for us, and we went in, and beautiful iconography. You might even be able to Google it, the St. Nectarios Church in New Zealand. Don't be too critical. The icons are not like you might expect of our best icons, but having realized the circumstance, I was very endeared to them. And we went in and we were blessed we felt God's grace. And then when we were walking out, and here's the point of the story, or my point tonight. As we were getting in, we were in 2 cars, by the way. We were in the van and one of the cars of that family. There were maybe 9 of us, 10. The gentleman said to me, very simply, "Father, would you like to bring your guest and come to my house for dinner?" I thought, that was an odd thing. Very gracious, of course, but I never expected. We were 9 people, as I said. "Would you like to come to my home for dinner?" And I looked to Maria, I think was her name, Eleni, the daughter, the middle-aged daughter with the children, Papu and Yaya were with us, everybody. I said, "Eleni, maybe we have to accept, love isn't always something you give, it's also something you have to accept from others." And she said, "Yes, Pater, I think we better go." So I turned to the gentleman and I said, "Okay, we'll follow you to your home. Thank you very much, they're very kind." And it was a beautiful home, a family home. And there were a lot of photographs and paintings and fine furniture. In fact, as we walked in, I saw in the entrance hallway, there were 2 large paintings of 2 beautiful young men, presumably his family, his sons and so forth. So we went in, and he quickly got busy. He took us into the kitchen area, a nice table there, and sat us all down, perhaps, I guess, gave us a glass of water, and he started to prepare. And he was putting something in the oven, he was cutting a salad, and it was just, what a great feeling, a total stranger to us, and yet he invited us into his home. Anyway, it was a happy, very happy atmosphere, and the man, he was just loving it. But it was kind of odd, as you might have wondered right now yourselves, there was no one else at home. I was expecting maybe the wife to come out, or some children or grandchildren or something, nothing. And soon enough, he presented us with a beautiful array of food. He said, as he presented it to us, he said, "My daughter lives up the road and she brought me a meatloaf today. And I'm so happy to have guests to share it with." So that was our first indication of his love, of wanting to share the food that he had today. And we said our prayer, he blessed, we ate. We were talking, small talk. And so it sort of came up. "And your wife?" And he said, "Yes, my wife, I'm a widower. My wife passed many years ago." I said, "Oh, God rest her soul. What was her name?" And so forth. We were talking and more small talk and so forth. And I said, "So do you have a family, you have children?" And then he sort of dropped his head a little bit there. He says, "Well, Father," he said, "my 2 sons were killed just a few months ago in an airplane accident." And of course, I realized all at once that those were the 2 portraits that I saw when we came in. It made much more, it was more understandable at this point, the loneliness of this gentleman. He was the caretaker of our church, or kept the key. Friend of his was the painter of the icons. We went as a big family to pray there, and he thought in a loving way, and for himself, to invite us all to dinner, and we had dinner with him. And it was a very, very memorable night. I'll never forget it. I'm sure he did not, and he will not. But it turns out true, that love is not only something we should and always work on to give to others, and it's a science, as I said, so we have to know how much to give, when, in what portions, and so forth, but also to receive. Someone wants to give you something or do something for you, sometimes even if you're not prepared or don't necessarily need it or something, sometimes it's good to accept. Accept. I mean, in our case here, it turned out to be a beautiful, beautiful blessing, and for us, and for the gentleman.